friends, on the days, Dr. Kalanidhi, my friends, I am very deeply moved by the very kind words you have spoken about me. I didn't expect it, honestly. That is because when I came to teach here in 1982, I came for the pleasure of teaching, because teaching is learning. It is the latter that is important. You don't teach unless you learn. Every time I came here, I prepared topics, 2 or 3, to give the students. Every time I came here, the examination of patients presented by the candidates who didn't know the results of investigation, and I didn't know anything about the patient. This is a neutral ground between the teacher and the student. The essence of it is that you as a teacher with the experience should guide the student who is young in the proper manner of approach to patients. I always had one dictum: the whole patient are not part of him. One of the dangerous things to do is to just look at the organ or if the patient has come with a complaint and send him away. 2 things may happen. You may be wrong. That is tragic. The second is that the patient goes to somebody else, and that somebody says, "What a man, this man has missed this." Now remember, that shouldn't happen, because in this profession, precision, thoroughness, complete dependability is important. So I hold as the highest standard of medical practice acquisition of knowledge by the teacher every day. As long as you have a stethoscope with you and you practice medicine, you are a student. You may call yourself a teacher, but you are a student. Secondly, maintain a diary of doubts. Remember, this diary of doubts is very valuable. When you get a doubt in the ward, or when somebody says something about a disorder, or a drug is mentioned to you, and you don't know about it, best to note down immediately and check that night. Don't postpone to any other day. This ability to fill in the blanks is very important for a medical man, be a teacher or in clinical practice. When I saw today those whom I had the pleasure of teaching, they've all grown. They've grown literally. You know what I mean? I had some difficulty in recognizing them. They have grown as a reflection of prosperity. They have grown. They have grown intellectually in the profession. Each one has become a giant. I saw a nephrologist. I saw a cardiologist. I saw a gastroenterologist. Where did they start? They started in the room there when bedside clinics. They started in the wards when Dr. Kalanidhi and his colleagues trained them. And you see, that nothing gives a greater pleasure to a teacher than to see his students prosper. It's like a father who feels happy when his son passes the IAS exam. It is true, when I said IAS, I recall the village teacher who taught a bright chap, got to the +2. In another few years, he has become the collector of that area. The teacher glows with pride. The collector was my student. It is similar to that. When I see a nephrologist, there are 2 of them now. There's a cardiologist there, and there's a gastroenterologist, and so many people here. I feel so proud that I have, even a small way, helped in building their career. That is the greatest pleasure a teacher can get. There is nothing like money in all this, because nothing can equal the pleasure of learning, the pleasure of imparting knowledge, the pleasure of seeing the fruition of your efforts. I have always felt there is no bad student. There is always a bad teacher. Like Napoleon. Napoleon said, there are no bad soldiers, there are bad captains. So I have found it true that I could get the best out of a boy or a girl who thought to be mediocre. Nobody is mediocre. Everybody has got the potential. What is needed is a teacher to get the best out of students. Above all, the love of students. That is, they come to you with the sincere belief of their parents that they will be trained by you to become doctors. And many a parent works very hard to get the education for his son or daughter. I don't want to refer to capitation fee, but that is tragedy today. So, all the more important, a medical teacher must train students well. The next thing is that the consequence of becoming a doctor, becoming a physician or a surgeon, is the obligation to have high character. Nothing can equal high character of a competent physician, surgeon, or whatever it be. I've always felt competence, character, compassion, or 3 C's in the practice of medicine. Talking of competence, that's a product of good training from the beginning. The ability to absorb fresh knowledge, reading journals, keeping up to date as much as possible. It is not possible to know everything in medicine today. Medicine is an ocean. You can just know a few things in medicine. Character, you don't have to train yourself. It is inborn in you. It is something which no other profession requires so much as character in this profession. The public lose confidence in the medical profession. That is the unfortunate consequence of a few black sheep. I always feel that medical men, by and large, are good. Just a few black sheep in the pursuit of not knowledge, money. They do things which they should not be doing. And that gives a bad color to the profession. One man asked me, "Doctor, you say you train students. When I go to a young doctor, he looks at my purse rather than my illness." So that shouldn't happen. At the same time, I want to remind you, doctors cannot live on thin air. They have to earn. You've got to have some comfort. You've got a family. They have to be brought up. So we must give a fair via media between avarice and what is rightful as your income. Lastly, compassion. Now you see, the way you treat people can be a mix of purely professional with a humaneness and extraordinarily humaneness. An incompetent doctor who is very humane is useless. A very competent doctor who is gruff and rough is going to hurt the patient mentally. So you got to give. This is again a product of cultivating the mind of yourself as a physician or a surgeon, that the man who comes is sick. A sick man has a right to grumble, a right to cry, a right to complain. It is something like a pedestrian is always right on the traffic. A sick man is always right. He may provoke you. You should not be provoked. I'll give you an example. After examining a patient, the son of the father, who was a Parkinson patient, he asked me, "Are you sure about your diagnosis?" This is today's problem, that relatives often look up internet. They get the ringside seat and they watch you examine patient, and you give your verdict. You give it in such a way that you don't hurt the patient, alarm the patient. But the relative, often having been briefed in the internet, asks you, are you sure about the diagnosis? How do you react to it? I had two options. I said, look, you know how many years practice I have been? I am the